Hi guys, this is Mitzi Newman with Century 21 Liberty, and we just got done talking about financing and getting pre-qualified, the first step in the home buying process. So now we're going to talk about working with real estate agents and what that means and their roles and responsibilities to you. So there is a brochure called Working with Real Estate Agents that an agent is going to introduce to you. The brochure talks about 3 different types of agents and the roles that they play in the transaction. So there's the buyer's agent, which represents the buyer and looks out for the buyer's best interests. There's also the seller's agent, which looks out for the seller and the seller's best interests. Then there's also a dual agent. What a dual agent is that is one agent, let's do that again, one agent that is working for both the buyer and the seller. So that agent becomes more of an intermediary and is not only representing each party, but is representing the transaction. So they are working with the buyer and the seller to make the transaction work and make sure that it's fair for both parties. So with this being said, okay, so a dual agent cannot tell a seller anything that's confidential about a buyer. Just like if buyer asks, you can't tell a buyer anything that's confidential about the seller. So you guys, that agent is there just to make that transaction work. So let's say we've got a $150,000 property. Buyers are going to put in an offer for $145,000 on the property. It's just listed at $150,000. So the buyers put in that offer for $145,000. Seller comes back and says, you know what? Let's counter back at $147,500 or $148,500. He says, but Mitz, you know what? If they come in at $147,500, I'll take it. So I go back to the sellers and I say, or to the buyers, I'm sorry. So I go back to the buyers and I say, hey, seller X has decided that he will counteroffer you at $148,500. And the buyers say, you don't know, I don't know, Mitz. Let's go with $148,000. You see what happened there? I can't tell the buyers that the seller said that he would accept $147,500. So I have to let the buyers go at $148,000. I have to tell them, hey, okay, I'm going to go to the sellers. So now I go to the seller and I say, hey, Mr. Seller, buyers A are going to offer $148,000. He says, awesome. He says, I would have taken $147,500. So the buyers still got what they want. They still decided on their own that that's where they were comfortable. Sorry, I just saw my cat in the back. Let me go that way. But so the buyers decided they were comfortable at $148,000. Their payment was okay. That's where they were okay to live at. So, and the seller decided, hey, you know what? He's going to obviously accept $148,000 because he was going to do $147,500. So that's where if I was a dual agent, I'm representing both parties, but I'm making the transaction work. Okay? So now, buyer's agent and seller's agent. Buyer's agent is working representing just you, the buyer, not the seller. Vice versa. Seller's agent representing the seller, working diligently for just the seller, not the buyer. Okay? So that is this pamphlet, Working with Real Estate Agents. That's what this goes over. It explains the different roles that the agent plays in the transaction. And as a real estate agent, we are mandated by the North Carolina Real Estate Commission to provide this pamphlet or brochure to you as a buyer. It is not a contract. It is just an informational brochure so that you understand who's representing who, who's not representing who, who's representing just the transaction. Okay, so next, my next video is going to be on buyer's agency and hiring a buyer's agent. So I hope that my discussion or video here has helped you a little bit with understanding the roles that an agent plays in the transaction. And I'll get more into that when we go into the next video on buyer agency. So I hope that you guys have a great night, and I'm going to rest for a little while. My throat's getting a little sore and dry. So I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much.